Thank you for joining me for Thursdays with Tony. As always, if you like what you see, leave me a thumbs up and leave a comment or share it with your friends. Today I have something slightly different. I usually don't do much social commentary, but occasionally there's a subject that strikes a nerve and I feel like, well, I gotta make a video about it. Today's subject is something of that nature. Join me in watching Toxic Masculinity. Thank you. During the recent trial of Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin, I heard the term toxic masculinity frequently. It made me wonder what it was, and if I had it. First, what is masculinity? According to the dictionary, masculinity is the quality or nature of the male sex, the quality, state, or degree of being masculine or manly. There are many characteristics of masculinity, such as strength, courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness. For me, masculinity was best seen in my favorite television and celluloid leading men. These were men with courage, men who would take a chance and never give up. They were men who were tough and strong and were not emotional. They were independent. They were leaders. These men always sought to be the best at what they were, and invariably spoke with a baritone voice and got the girl. Perhaps characters played by the actor Gary Cooper best displays this type of masculinity. Then I'm a fan of Western films. Oh yes, the girl part, just the inherent biological desire to reproduce. Where does this masculinity come from? There are two schools of thought on this, and of course the social scientists have the data to verify their opinions. Masculinity is a product of the environment or the culture, some would have us believe. Tribal customs or the modern demand to be a man create this masculinity or manliness. In other words, develop those characteristics identified with masculinity. Another and contrasting school of thought is that these characteristics are inherent in a man's DNA or biology. He is born with masculine traits. Perhaps, in reality, it's a little of both. There are a number of definitions for toxic masculinity. This is but one. A set of attitudes and ways of behaving stereotypically associated with or expected of men as having a negative impact on men and on society as a whole. Toxic masculinity is when these masculine characteristics are emphasized or out of control. For example, when a man's natural aggression is greater than it needs to be. A schoolyard bully comes to mind. He needs to live up to the expectation that he must be the king of the hill, the baddest of the bad. It is the degree of aggression that determines what is or is not considered toxic aggression or toxic masculinity. One could argue that toxic masculinity is not always a bad thing. Indeed, sometimes it's rewarded. For example, recipients of our nation's highest military honor, the Medal of Honor, is frequently awarded to those exhibiting what some would call excessive aggression. Toxic masculinity? Occasionally, a defense of masculinity comes from a surprising place. Note the item from The Guardian. Meryl Streep has criticized the phrase toxic masculinity, saying it is offensive to men. We hurt our boys by calling them something toxic masculinity, she said. Note what psychologist Jordan Peterson has to say.
Toxic masculinity, that appalling phrase. It's what keeps the world going round. If we had any sense, we'd understand that instead of doing everything at every possible moment to label what we have in the West as oppressive and patriarchal.
For teachers,
There is a movement in education today, spurred by social scientists, to modify the behavior of boys to become kinder, gentler sort. No playground fights. Groupthink is encouraged as opposed to reliance on individual decisions. Boys are also encouraged to show their emotions. No longer are we allowed to say, boys will be boys. This seems to me to blur the line between the sexes.
sense of masculinity. So, in order to preserve and promote this, we must teach boys to become collaborative learners, creative thinkers, and compassionate leaders who genuinely care about our diverse global community.
A more homogeneous group of people.
I guess what bothers me about this trend more than anything else is if we retrain our boys in school to be a kinder, gentler type of man, well, who will protect us, protect the freedoms we enjoy? Who will dash into the fires to pull out a child? Who will address the rapists and those who commit crimes? Who?
Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and share the video with your friends. A thumbs up helps my channel grow too. Other videos are available, as you can check out my playlist as well as what's coming up next.